I'll never forget that morning, the air crisp with that early fall bite. Stepping out to check my fields and finding my fence-me pride, my sweat, my boundary smashed to pieces, splintered boards strewn across the dirt like a kid's broken toy. I followed the hoof prints fading into the horizon, my gut twisting as I realized my herd was gone, scattered across the open range. At first, I thought maybe a windstorm had ripped through, but the cuts on those posts were too clean, too deliberate. Someone had taken a saw to my life's work, and deep down, I knew exactly who. Her name was Linda, the self-appointed dictator of the Pinewood Estates HOA, a woman who walked around with a clipboard like it was a scepter, her fake smile sharper than barbed wire. She'd been gunning for me ever since her cul-de-sac kingdom sprouted up a mile down the road, convinced my ranch was a blight on her perfect little suburbia. I'm Jake, by the way, just a guy trying to keep my family's land alive, 400 acres of rolling Montana pasture that's been ours since my great-grandpa staked it in 1890. That fence wasn't just wood, it was my word, my roots, every blister I earned hammering posts under the summer sun. Linda saw it as an eyesore, a challenge to her control, and she wasn't the type to let a challenge slide. It started small the way these things do. Letters in my mailbox, typed up on crisp Pinewood Estates letterhead, warning me about non-compliant landscaping or visual obstructions. Landscaping? On a working ranch, can you believe it? I'd chuckle, toss them in the burn pile, and get back to my chores. But Linda didn't stop. She'd cruise by in her shiny SUV, squinting at my barn like it personally offended her, scribbling notes, snapping photos. One day, she had the nerve to pull up while I was mending a gate. "Jake," she said, her voice all syrup and venom. "This place could use some community standards, don't you think? It's dragging down our property values." I just stare, my hammer still in hand. "Linda, my land's been here longer than your HOA. I don't answer to you." Her smile tightened, and I swear I saw a flicker of war in her eyes. From then on, it was a slow burn of harassment. Notices about my fence color because, apparently, weathered cedar doesn't match her suburban aesthetic. A pile of gravel dumped on my access road, just enough to scrape my truck if I wasn't careful. Then a letter threatening a lawsuit over my barn, claiming it violated some zoning code she'd dug up from who knows where. My barn, built by my dad in '98, before her cookie-cutter houses even existed. I ignored it all, figuring she'd tire herself out, but Linda wasn't playing a game, she was building a siege. The real kick came one night in late September. My dogs woke me up, their growls low and urgent, so I grabbed my flashlight and headed out. The beam hit the pasture, and my heart stopped. My fence wasn't just down, it was gutted. Whole sections sawed clean through, posts snapped like twigs. Beyond it, my herd 150 head of cattle was gone, their tracks stretching into the dark. I ran my hand over the cuts, splinters biting my skin, and found a crumpled Pinewood Estates flyer stuck in the mud, practically winking at me. Linda. I didn't need to see her to know it was her. The next morning, I stood on my porch, staring at the wreckage, my fists so tight my knuckles ached. Neighbors drove by, some slowing to gawk, others pretending not to see. At the feed store, the whispers were already spreading. Jake's cattle got loose, tore up the highway. Linda says he can't keep his land in check. She wasn't just breaking my fence, she was breaking me, turning my name into a punchline. I could have gone to the sheriff, but what would that do? A slapped wrist for her, maybe while she kept coming. No, I needed something bigger, something she couldn't laugh off. I showed up at the next HOA meeting, boots still caked with mud, and there she was, Linda, standing at the front of their fancy clubhouse like she owned the world. She was mid-speech, waving her clipboard, preaching about community safety, and pointing to a slideshow pictures of my broken fence, my cattle on the road, even me sweating over repairs. The crowd murmured, nodding like sheep. "This," she said, her voice dripping with smugness, is why we need stricter oversight. Jake's property is a danger to us all. I stepped forward, the room going quiet. You cut my fence, Linda, I said, my voice steady but burning. You let my herd loose to make me look like the problem. She laughed, sharp and cold. Oh, Jake, don't be ridiculous. Maybe if you followed the rules, your fences wouldn't be an issue. The crowd shifted, some buying her act, others glancing at me like I was the fool. I walked out, heat rising in my chest, knowing she'd won that round. But Linda didn't know me. I'm not the guy who folds. I sat on my porch that night, watching my cattle graze under the moonlight, their bulk moving like a storm waiting to break. That's when the idea hit, not a plan, not yet, just a spark. My land wasn't just catlight, was home to 150 bison, heavy, wild, unstoppable. I'd raised them for years, knew their rhythms, how they'd charge as one when spooked, how the ground shook under their hooves. Linda wanted to play dirty? I'd show her what dirty looked like. Over the next week, I watched her patterns. The HOA office, a squat beige building with a sign that read Pinewood Estates, building our future, sat on a lot that sloped right toward my back pasture. Every Thursday at 7 p.m., Linda held court there, her board gathered like loyal minions. I started prepping oiling gate hinges, spreading extra feed to draw the bison closer, letting them get used to the path. I kept my head down in town, let Linda think she'd beaten me. She even sent another notice, this time about excessive livestock noise. I read it and grinned. Noise. Oh, she had no idea. The night came, a cool October evening, the sky streaked with red. I stood by the gate, my heart pounding like a drum, the herd snorting behind me, their breath steaming in the dusk. Across the field, the HOA office glowed, Linda's voice carrying through the open windows. I leaned against the post, took a deep breath, and whispered, "All right, boys, let's give him a show." I yanked the latch, and the gate swung wide. For a moment, nothing. Then the ground roared. The bison surged, a tidal wave of muscle and horns, dust exploding around them as they thundered down the slope. I jogged behind, watching them tear across the HOA lot, cars rocking, alarms screaming. Inside, the meeting froze Linda mid-sentence, her clipboard slipping as someone yelled, "What the hell is that?" The herd hit like a freight train, flattening hedges, smashing flower beds, their hooves cracking the asphalt. Glass shattered as a bull rammed a window, papers flying, chairs toppling. Linda screamed, her rhinestone headband glinting as she scrambled for the exit, only to freeze as two bison blocked her path. She fell, crawling through dirt and broken glass, her empire crumbling around her. I stood at the edge, arms crossed, watching the chaos. For months, she'd mocked me, tore down my work, humiliated me. Now her perfect little office was a war zone, and I couldn't help but smile. "Call the cops," she shrieked, pointing at me through the shattered window. He did this. I raised a hand, tipped my hat, and let the herd answer for me. 10 minutes later, they'd had their fun and drifted back to the pasture, leaving the office in ruins, windows gone, walls scarred, Linda clutching her broken clipboard like a lifeline. The next day, the town was alive with it. Reporters swarmed the office, snapping pictures of the wreckage. Linda tried to spin it, standing in front of the cameras, hair a mess, blaming a reckless rancher who endangers our families. But the questions came hard. Doesn't his land predate your HOA? What about the saw marks on his fence? She stammered, her lies unraveling. Neighbors started talking old man Carter at the feed store, swearing he'd seen Linda's SUV near my fence the night it went down. The sheriff stopped by, tipped his hat, and said, "Jake, no charges. Looks like someone tampered with your property first." I just nodded, but inside I was flying. Linda's kingdom fell apart after that. Board members quit. Residents tore up her Bison damage fees, shouting her down at meetings. "You brought this on us," one guy yelled, waving a bill in her face. The county launched an investigation, misused funds, intimidation, property tampering, all with Linda's name at the top. But I wasn't done. I've been digging through my family's records, and there it was, a deed from 1892 showing the HOA office sat on a 1-acre parcel my great-grandpa bought. Her precious headquarters? Built on my land. I walked in her office a week later, papers in hand. She was pacing, barking at the last 2 board members when she saw me. "What do you want?" she snapped. I dropped the deed on her desk. "This land's mine, Linda. Always has been. You've got 30 days to get out." Her face went white as she read it, hands shaking. "This is a lie," she whispered, but the board members were already backing away. "If it's true," one said, "we're done for." I leaned in, voice low. "It's true, and your time's up." The next month was a parade of defeat trucks hauling out her files, her furniture, her dreams. Residents watched, some cheering, others whispering. Linda fought to the end, threatening lawsuits, begging her loyalists, but no one listened. On the last day, she stood in the doorway, clipboard in hand, staring at me like she could burn me down with her eyes. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I shrugged. "You regretted crossing me first." She walked away, her heels clicking on the cracked pavement, and I felt the weight lift, my land quiet again, my fence standing tall. Looking back, it wasn't just about the bison or the deed, it was about standing up when someone tries to take what's yours. Linda thought power was her clipboard, her rules, her control. But real strength? It's the dirt under your nails, the hurt at your back, the truth you hold when the world's against you. I don't regret a thing, not the chaos, not the stampede, because sometimes you've got to let the storm loose to be heard. So what do you think? Was I right to fight fire with fire, or did I go too far? Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever faced your own Linda. Hit that subscribe button, because trust me, out here, the stories don't stop.